All right, today we're diving into a deal so massive, it's already being called the mother of all trade deals. We're talking, of course, about the brand new free trade agreement between India and the European Union, a partnership that's honestly set to redraw the entire global economic map. So, here's what we're going to cover. Just how big is this thing really? What's actually written into the agreement? We're going to break down the hard numbers, look at the huge geopolitical shifts this thing causes, and then figure out what has to happen next to make it all a reality. I mean, just listen to how leaders on both sides are talking about this. The mother of all trade deals. You know, that's not just some catchy media headline. That is a direct quote, and it tells you everything you need to know about just how high the stakes are here. So let's start with how we even got here. I mean, this monumental agreement, it didn't just appear out of thin air. It was finalized on January 27th, 2026, but that was after, get this, nearly 2 decades of really tough, really complex negotiations. And what did all that work actually create? Well, how about a single, unified consumer market of roughly 2 billion people? Just let that sink in for a second. This deal connects one of the world's oldest, most established economic unions with one of its absolute fastest-growing nations. And if we're just talking pure economic muscle, well, together, this new bloc represents a jaw-dropping 25%, a full quarter of the entire global GDP. This is a genuine economic superpower, and it was created through partnership, not by force. Okay, so we've established it's huge, we get it. But what are the actual nuts and bolts of the deal? Let's pop the hood and see what's really changing. So the heart of the agreement is all about eliminating tariffs. You know, those taxes that get slapped on imported goods. As you can see, almost all Indian exports heading to the EU, a full 99%, are going to be tariff-free. Coming the other way, for EU exports to India, it's 96.6%. Now that slight difference isn't a mistake, it's actually really key. It points to a carefully balanced, phased-in approach that's designed to give certain industries a bit of breathing room to adapt. And you can see the big winners pretty clearly on the left here. Major industries like cars, machinery, and textiles are getting a huge boost. But what's on the right, what's been left out, is just as important. Both sides were really strategic about protecting sensitive local markets. Think about it. For the EU, it's about its farmers. And for India, it's about shielding millions of small-scale dairy farmers who are the backbone of the rural economy. It just shows how pragmatic the whole negotiation really was. But here's the thing. This is a truly modern trade deal. It goes way beyond just cutting taxes on goods. It's about making trade smarter and easier with modern customs and getting regulations to speak the same language. And check out that last point, a €500 million commitment from the EU for India's green transition. They're literally building sustainability right into the DNA of this pact. So how does all of this actually translate into real financial impact? We've talked percentages, we've talked sectors, but what does this mean in cold hard cash for the businesses on both sides? Here it is, the headline number. The agreement is set to slash approximately €4 billion in tariffs every single year. And let's be clear, that's not some fuzzy projection of economic growth. That is a direct annual saving for companies, money that can go right back into creating jobs, innovation, and expansion. And of course, those savings are expected to light an absolute fire under trade volumes. The goal? To completely supercharge the economic relationship and push the value of trade between the two toward an incredible $200 billion by 2030. But, you know, as massive as those numbers are, if we only focus on the money, we'd be missing the bigger picture. This agreement is also a huge geopolitical statement, a major chess move on the world stage. To really get why, you have to look at the world this deal was signed in. We're talking about an era of rising trade friction, new tariff pressures from other big powers, and a growing trend of countries kind of looking inward and closing their doors. So against that backdrop, this agreement isn't just about economics. It's a very deliberate choice. It's a strategic move for both India and the EU to diversify their alliances, to build stronger partnerships with like-minded powers, and create a powerful bloc that's still committed to open trade. And that stability has a massive ripple effect. I mean, if you're a big multinational corporation or a major investor, this deal creates exactly what you're looking for: a predictable, stable, and absolutely massive economic zone. When the rules are standardized and your intellectual property is protected, you get the confidence you need to invest for the long term and maybe even totally rethink your global supply chains. So,
the ink is dry, the deal is signed, and the whole world is watching. But it's not actually active just yet. So what's the practical path from this historic handshake to full-blown implementation? Well, it's basically a three-step process. First, the agreement has to be legally ratified or approved by the parliaments in India and all across the EU member states. Second, the changes, especially those tariff cuts, will be phased in over several years. It's not like flipping a switch. And third, this really just kicks off a long-term partnership of continuous cooperation to keep those regulations aligned. So this is truly the beginning, not the end. And all of this, it leaves us with one final, really big question to chew on. In a world that seems to be fracturing and pulling apart, could this massive collaborative agreement between two diverse economic giants actually be the new blueprint for the future of global trade?